this Ask Me Anything session. We're going to open it up to you later, just for yeah, whatever questions you have. But as we go, it's wide open as well. So if you want to stop and say, "What about this or that I'm talking about?" I'm going to briefly have the agenda for today is looking at what's happening with the bees here at my place, and then yeah, then we're going to start looking at your questions. So Danny, if you want to go to the next slide. Yeah, there we go. Well, back up one. Let me make sure I didn't miss any of the agenda. All right, so yeah, so we're going to look at what's happening with my bees in my area and see how that corresponds to what's happening with you. For some of you, it's going to align. Some of you are ahead of that. Some of you are behind. Uh, so anyway, it'll be fun to compare to see where we are, and then answer your questions and open the floor up, and then see what's next for us. So, all right, next slide, Danny. So as some of you know, who've been tracking with us, my bees were, and my son's bees were hit pretty hard last uh, fall with the hurricane that came through my area. Lost 60 some hives washed away in my backyard here. So we're rebuilding this year and just wanted to share kind of how that's going. And the way that that is happening with me, I'm kind of using a whole bunch of different resources for that. It's kind of fun because I've been doing this for a long time. But then, so I've used packages before, I've done splits before, I've done nukes, but I'm kind of doing all of the above this year, and for various reasons. And it'll be a good comparison to see kind of how things go with these different modes of building hives. But started in late March, kind of lining up the bees, the equipment. We needed all of it to restart, and so really had to get stuff lined up so that we could do that. And then in late March, a buddy of mine, Robert King with the West Orange Apiary, he had some hives that needed splitting. A friend here in Boone had some extra queens that he got. They're actually kind of from Bob Benny lines that were really nice coming out of Florida. So I started with 10 splits there. Then I bought a bunch of packages in early April. And we can debate about packages or nukes, but packages are a quick way to get started. And so I got a chunk from there, and then I got a shipment of queens in from California that my son has a connection with, and made some more splits, and then pulled some resources out of another friend who was uh, knocking his hives back down to singles. So again, you can see there's a big mashup of a lot of different ways of creating hives that I've used this year in my operation. And then the last line there is swarms. I'm unintentionally increasing by swarms, but if you know, sometimes bees just want to swarm. Some of that was my fault. Some of it was just the bees being bees. So, all right, next slide, Danny. I've got some pictures here to show some of that. Um, and here's the first splits. These were late March, and the on the left is the splits. This is about in the mid area of North Carolina. Then I brought the splits back to my house here in the mountains of North Carolina. And so put them in gesture nuke boxes, fed them up, and got them off to a good start. So next slide. This was a shipment of queens that I got from California, Buzz Bees. Some really nice Carniolan queens that my son, as I said, he was running a big sideliner operation and had this connection. And on the left and on the right is where I was making some splits. Now you can't tell from this picture, but it was not the best day to do splits. You can see it's a little misty looking in the background on this picture, but sometimes timing, you just have to do things when you have to do things. So anyway, those are some of the early splits I was making to get bees to go with these queens. So next slide. And then here's the packages. So a bunch of packages in the back of my Honda Pilot. You can see the queen and the queen cage there marked blue for this year. And so again, I had 18 of those and installed them kind of right next to all these splits in the backyard and have them going, fed them up as well, which you kind of have to do with new packages. The nice thing was I did have some drawn comb, so I was able to start them off with at least a little bit of drawn comb, and then force them to draw comb. I really like to make the bees draw comb in the spring, especially when you've got a new hive growing out. All right, next slide, Danny. Okay, on the left here, this picture is one of those Hive Butler little container boxes that you can slide frames down in. And this was, again, a buddy of mine, Jeff Brooks from De La Cruz Farms here nearby. He was pushing double deeps back down to singles and had a lot of extra resource hives that he generously donated to me that I then went and supplemented these splits that I'd made. Some of the splits were very thin in terms of the number of bees that I had, but this supplemented the resources, made them stronger. On the right-hand side, you can see very nice brood pattern there of these splits growing out, drawing new comb, all the things that you want to see happening as your bees are growing out. Next slide. So that was kind of March, April, and now we're in May, end of May. And the question is, how's it going now? Well, April was really nice for growing out bees. It was relatively warm, no long periods of rain. The bees were growing quickly. Everything was going to plan. And then May came along. And depending on where you are in the US, it's been a little herky jerky in terms of the weather, and so we had some cool spells, had some rain spells, had some crazy wind in the last 2 weeks. I was inspecting a hive last week, and it was blowing so hard that when I pulled the frame out, the bees were getting blown off the frame. Uh, yeah, so that was kind of unusual. And I was also counting on the nectar flow. We in my area, the flow typically is in mid May, early mid-May when it starts. And so it would be perfect timing to grow these bees out. And it's been hit or miss. Some days great for it, some days not. So the growth has been a little bit tempered from that. I also got behind in moving the bees. They were growing fast enough that they were a little bit ahead of me at times, and so triggered some swarming behavior out of these splits even. And so that's resulted in a few swarms. And so I've got some pictures. Yeah, we can go to the next slide again to see how that's working. And this picture I wanted to illustrate to you how I keep records. Okay. This is a little bit dangerous because I create an app for keeping records. But look, I still write, okay, on the top of the box. So you can see on the left-hand side here, this is the top of a nuke box. I made the split on 413. It was a two-frame split, which is a pretty thin split. Bzz'9, that's the Buzz is the queen. It's the ninth split that I made. And then I came back 417 and it was queen right. And I added two more frames of brood from those resources. And then by the 29th, it was ready to transfer. Okay, so in the app, you can see I also track that as well. Created the split, put the queen in. I fed the bees. That's an additional piece of information. Added those resources, and then the next thing in the app will be transferring to the deep. And then on the right hand side, you can see this is where we were transferring from the nukes into the deep. That's where I got behind a little bit. So next slide. So of course I got behind. The nuke on the left, you can see that is over full with bees. You love to see it, but it can also trigger swarming, which you can see on the right side was the result out of a few of those that grew really quickly. They kicked off swarms. I was able to catch most of them, I think. But then that leaves you with a queenless hive for some, one of the splits was queenless for some period of time. So I have to monitor that as well. And I think I've got another swarm picture next, maybe. Let's see, what is it? Oh, this was this was not a split. This is a hive scale. You've seen these before. I think I've showed them to you. And so this is pretty much the end of April through a couple of days ago here. And this is one of two hives that overwintered here at the farm. They did not get washed away in the flood. This is actually my daughter's hive next to the house right here, and it overwintered well. I doubled it up before this scale, like in mid-April. I doubled it up to let it grow, and then it was growing well. You can see the little periods of increase in weight where we were getting some nectar flow, and then the big drop right in the middle or to the right, that was a 10-pound swarm that came out of this hive. And then a week-ish later, the other big drop is a 4-pound swarm. Both came out of this same hive. And I was actively trying to manage it not to swarm. So that shows you how much control we don't have over the bees. So let's go to the next slide. I think it's showing these two swarms. Yeah, the one on the left there, that was the 10-pound. And you can see kind of in the crook of the tree, if you look in the distance, that's the hive that the swarm came from. So, and then the other one on the right, that's the second swarm that came out later. So again, when the bees want to swarm, they'll swarm. Okay, what's next? Oh, the weather. So this was a few snapshots of the outdoor temperature on the 7th and the 10th and the 24th, where we were down close to freezing or below freezing. And in fact, the 10th and the 24th here, those were frost. The 24th, yes, this past weekend, we had frost where I'm at, which is not real conducive to making honey or growing things for that matter. So anyway, it's been a little bit of a challenging spring, especially in May. So, all right, next. Okay, so what's next? Well, we're still in a window of potential flow for where I am in the mountains of North Carolina. Our tulip poplar is still blooming. Our blackberry is still blooming. Black locust weirdly just now started blooming. We usually get it probably 3 weeks ago. And you can see I'm still in a fleece, which in my invite to attend, I was in this and I still am because it is currently 40 something degrees Fahrenheit outside, drizzly, rainy. So all those blooms that are out there waiting for the bees are just going to have to wait a few more days. We're hoping that we can squeeze out some nectar at the end of the flow. I'm not real confident. But after that, what we'll do is all of our focus is towards sourwood. So we'll be evaluating all these splits that I've made to see who's the strongest and probably boost the ones that are the strongest to get them ready for sourwood, which we will be moving for sourwood in about 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks for my area, and hope for the best for a sourwood flow. All right. So there's your sourwood blooms. Maybe you've seen those before. And I don't think my sourwood yard will look this nice this year, but it will. It's ready for us to put hives there. And again, a lot of folks in North Carolina, the ones that are not in the mountains, are looking forward to the sourwood. Some folks bring hives up for sourwood, and that will be happening in again about 3 weeks for us. And yeah, if you have questions about sourwood, that would be appropriate for the Ask Me Anything as well. So I think that might be the last pictures. All right. So again, hopefully that's a good warm up. Give you some yeah, just an update on where I am with my bees and trying to grow back into a production level. I don't know if you added up all those highs, but I'm in the 40 plus range right now. And again, my goal will be to have probably half that many in production in sourwood this year, and then I'll have to decide at the end of the season how much more I want to grow from that. But previous to this year, we would run anywhere from 100 to 150 hives for our business. But okay, so let's have questions. And there's some that have been submitted. Maybe we'll go there. But if you've got something on the top of your mind that you want to ask, feel free to start asking.
Have you got something, Tim? Were you going to say something?
No.
No, you're good. Okay, well, yeah, maybe we can do one of our submitted questions then to get us started. What do you reckon?
Okay. And again, just jump in here. We want this to be, that was just me throwing a lot of information at you. Want you to jump in here and ask questions, have a conversation. This first question here, uh, the answer is yes. You can have a swarm issue from a hive and then return to that same hive. I have a funny story here. I had a hive on the building on the cafeteria on the Appalachian State campus, and it had a scale under it. And I had a swarm come out of it and landed on this tree, like right in the middle of campus. So there's a big hubbub, and went out, was going to try to catch it. It was a little bit high, and then within an hour, it flew back and went back into the hive. Next day, came out again into the same tree. Next day, and then went back. Third day, it came out again, landed in the same tree. So the answer is yes, they can come in and out. Um, as far as a swarm landing nearby cause your bees to fly, I don't know. I imagine there's some pheromones and stuff going around that probably add a little bit of confusion to the bee yard, but swarms come out all the time in big bee yards, and you know everybody else is okay. So
We have a
all
couple
right.
at two, maybe
Okay.
James. Tom has just asked packages installed on May 8th. How long should I continue to feed one by one sugar solution?
Yeah, so feeding of packages, generally, I I'll just my general philosophy is I am a minimalist in terms of feeding. And so I want to stop feeding sooner than later than most folks. But for a package in particular, you definitely want to keep feeding them while they're drawing out. If they're having to draw comb, you just keep on feeding them while they're taking the feed. That's kind of the general principle. If you can get them into a flow of some sort, then that will just really accelerate their growth. So that's a vague answer, but you definitely want to keep feeding them while they're trying to grow and get established. And there's a funny thing with packages that they have this dip in population kind of before the new population takes over, because all those bees that came with the package, they're older bees, or a lot of them are, and then they're going to before the new brood starts hatching out, because it's going to take probably 25, 30 days at least before you have the first newbies coming out. So there's a window in there where it's going to be kind of dicey for them in terms of how many bees they have. And they may even slow down on syrup at that point as well. All right. What else?
Shannon, I think you've just raised your hand if you want to, yeah, go for it.
Hey, thanks. How you doing, James?
I'm well,
Um,
you.
good, good. East Tennessee, Southern East Tennessee here, and I am a new beekeeper. We've got about 14 acres. We just enjoyed having them around. A lot of clover on the yard, so that's been helpful. My question is pertaining to the inability to identify a queen, and I think that's just because my eyes aren't trained. But I
Right.
see evidence of them in bee production. The colonies
Right.
are growing. I added another brood chamber to both. They seem to be doing well. How worried should I be about identifying a queen? I have what looks to be queen cells forming, and I'm just kind of letting them do their own thing this first year to
Right.
establish growth to get to the winter. So
Yeah.
that's kind of my question.
Yeah. So great question. And for new beekeepers, it sometimes that's a question. I can't find the queen. You're just not trained yet. I mean, your eyes aren't used to picking them out. And the bottom line is, who cares if you see the queen? If your hive is thriving, if you're seeing evidence of the queen, which is eggs and all stages of brood, you're good. I mean, you don't have to see the queen at all, ever, to have a healthy hive. And so don't necessarily get hung up on that. Sometimes you can spend too much time looking for her. Okay. And that's, you don't want to spend too much time, more time in the hive than you have to. There's nothing wrong with it per se, but it's not something that you want to be stressed over, really. And the on the other hand, it's fun when you get to see the queen, and there will come a time when you'll start seeing the queen when you have to do inspections, and you'll just get better at it, and you will also get good at knowing where to expect to find her. Okay, so there's places that she's more likely to be. For example, if you pull a frame out and there's eggs in it, she's generally close to a frame that has eggs on it. So anyway, all that fun stuff you'll learn as you go. And good job on you for starting out and yeah, being curious about the bees. It's fun. All right, what's next?
Okay. Emmy, sit. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Sit. Emmy, sit.
Yeah.
Good
Okay, maybe
girl.
we can go to a couple in the chat then.
Okay.
Come through. Um, we have um okay, we have a question about so Rick, you have a couple of questions. I'm not sure if you wanted to unmute yourself. So you've got a question about the product as well as about when to catch a swarm. Is it safe to move them a few 100 feet, or should they be moved like a split several miles? Maybe we do, excuse me, the swarm question first, and then we do the app question.
Okay. Yeah, and I can pick up this second question in the list here, which is an app question as well. Um, so the swarms, uh, yeah, I historically I've kind of left them wherever they were if I could. And that's more of being lazy and not having time. Um, but I have yeah, no problem moving them immediately, right? When you catch them, just take them wherever, you want them to be. And the sooner the better because they're not really locked in, to that spot per se, like an established hive is. So I think you have a window of time around when they swarm that you can move them, and they'll be fine because they have to kind of lock into the new place regardless. And where that swarm is located, they're locked in there, but only temporarily, right? Because they're going to go to a new place, and so I would not have any qualms with moving them pretty quickly. Now, you do want to catch as many of the foragers, that are out looking for a place to go. All right, so let's go to app questions. The second question here, and then Danny, you can tell me what the other one was. So what's the best way to record moving colonies between yards, transferring a hive one to another? And I'm doing that right now in the app. And so the best way right now, there's two ways. If you're on HiveTracks Pro, there is a move kind of function to use in the HiveTracks Pro. In the app itself, you just go back to the original hive and edit the hive. Okay, and when you edit the hive, you can change its yard, and so that essentially is functionally a move. The other thing that I do, and I didn't have it on that screen that I showed the screenshot, but I will enter a record in the other category for records, and I'll name that record move colony or move hive. And so when I move that hive, I enter a record for that, and then I edit the hive itself to show its new location. So that's how I do the move, or that's how you do the move in the HiveTracks app. All right. What's the other question, Danny?
Fantastic. I think the other one was also Rick, just about syncing between mobile and pro.
Okay.
And I think this could be a bug that we've discovered, but if ever you notice that it's not syncing kind of immediately
Yeah.
or within minutes, it's always a good idea just to kind of log out and sign back in, which should force a sync to that. If you're still having issues, of course, please let us know. But this usually, yeah, kicks the sync into gear.
Yeah, and I would say just to add to that, cell connectivity and how strong that connection is a big factor in syncing, and so sometimes that kind of complicates the equation, and so you want to make sure you have good cell coverage for the sync to happen well. And there's also a way in the app, if you haven't seen it, to force a sync with the mothership, so to speak, the main database. And so you can do a force to get data if you're not seeing something that should be there. But all that being said, by design, it should sync pretty quickly. Now, if you've got a lot of data that you were entered offline, then clearly that's going to take some time to do that. But again, if it's not syncing in some way for you, then definitely submit a support ticket for that. All right.
Disconnect, are you talking about the phone app or are you talking about the online version? I assume the phone app is what you're referring to if it's not syncing correctly.
Correct. And the phone app, you can enter data in either place, so it has to sync both ways. And so if you can enter data on the web app, and then it gets pushed over to the mobile app. Likewise, if you enter data on the mobile app, it gets pushed back to the web app. So they're syncing going both directions.
So what we've noticed is that I will put it in my iPhone 15 Pro, and I mean, we've got great coverage. The tower's less than a mile away.
Yeah.
And it just does not sync to the online versions, so therefore other team members can't see what I've done.
Right.
Let me jump in here, James,
Yeah.
real quick.
Sure.
I think we've received a couple of support tickets, so I have turned this over to the development team so they can make sure it's not a bug, because that should not be happening. It should be syncing, and your team members should be able to see whatever you input. At this point, as Danny said, the best thing to do as a workaround is to try to log out and log back in to force a sync and just see if that changes anything. And if it doesn't, let us know. And then our support team will be there to work through that. So
Yeah. Thanks, Rick. Thanks for holding us on that one.
Okay, there's a lot of great questions coming through. We'll try to keep
Right.
up with all them. If you want to jump ahead of the queue, you can unmute yourself and get VIP access, but I'll try to cover as many in the chat. So we have one from Shelton saying, my nukes do not want to draw comb on the waxed foundations. Any suggestions to get them to draw comb?
So for nukes drawing comb, one, you need enough bees in there to draw comb. You need enough resources for them to do it, and you need temperature, warm enough for them to do it as well. So those are in the ingredients that you need. And so if one of those is not there, then I would say that would be a reason why they might not be drawing comb. I mean, drawing comb is a pretty intensive process for the bees, and all the things have to be aligned for that to work well. So, all right.
Okay. Greg, you're up.
Okay, yeah, we just had a little smoke detector going off, so I don't know if this question was asked. Been trying to find out if anything on the legacy data being transferred into the Pro.
Yeah.
If we got any time frame on that, and then the other thing, I don't know if the app on my phone. I've never was a big phone app person. I'm 69 years old, and I don't like pushing buttons.
Yeah.
But I have a limited data, but I don't know if Pro's on my phone. I don't know if I upgraded it to it, but I know I tried to upgrade to Pro, and so I'm kind of in limbo right now. I'm still using a legacy to do all my hive inspections, keep my data. So I'll shut up and let you answer, James.
Yeah. No, thanks. Yeah. So one, appreciate you for being a a longtime legacy customer and still using it. And two, we've been kind of on the edge of migrating legacy over to the new platform. And we were waiting on some new features that we're building out to get the app out before we do that transition over. But we've got kind of it staged and ready to move over. And so our timeline is 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, I think is a safe bet to get the data from legacy over into our new database. Now, as far as the app and what you use to enter the data, so on our new platform, the mobile app is the main piece, and it's free. Okay, and then the Pro is what's on the web application, and so we're going to be communicating with you through this process on when things are going to happen and how to do that. So yeah, it's very close. We really want to get everybody over and get you on the new platform as soon as possible. Thanks.
Thanks.
All right, what's next?
All right. Gian has a good question. I'm not sure if you wanted to pop on yourself and ask that, or whether I can do
Yeah,
it.
y'all stop being shy. Just ask the question.
It's better than
Hi, that's me.
Oh,
I-
fantastic.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Okay.
So I'm in Wyndham, New York. Like that day, this incident happened was like in the 42, and it was like 4 o'clock p.m. And I know if they want to swarm, they will do it earlier in a better weather. They gathered a lot of bees underneath the hive, and they are pretty like they are dying also. They are not like very active.
Mhm.
I went in the hive the second day because it was so late and it was raining. I checked the hive. There's only cups, empty cups, no queen cups, no swarm cells, no hatched queen cell, nothing.
Right.
I added. It still has plenty of room in the honey super I added the week before, but I added an extra one just in case. It had a lot of bees, but they still have
Yeah.
room. It's not like very crowded. I brushed all of them. I thought maybe the queen fell down. I got them
Right.
very carefully on the insert of the bottom with the brush, and I put them near the hive. Not many going back in, few, but they're not just getting in. And I'm wondering what it's still cold. Like I said, it's gonna start to warm. Today is a little bit like. So I'm not sure what is that behavior.
Yeah, it's a little hard to diagnose remotely, but
Yeah.
your gut is right. There could have been a queen that kind of maybe tried to swarm, but then sometimes they come back and get under the front, or if there's a screen bottom board, then they'll kind of congregate that way as well. But I would suggest, again, just with the limited information you've given, just wait until it warms back up and then go. Don't worry about that group of bees. You could just dump them back in. That's what I would, just dump them back in the top, and they'll clean them up or warm them up or whatever. But you'll want to go in, when it warms back up, just to see what the queen status is of that hive.
I have bees. This is my second year. I've never been able to see the queen. It's like you said before.
That's what I mean. You don't
Yeah.
need to look for the queen though. Just look for eggs. And
Yeah,
when
that's what I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So do that when it warms back up.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. What's next, Danny?
What else have we got? Okay, Eric. One from Eric. I'm picking up a nuke. Can I give it frames of honey from a dead out instead of feeding sugar syrup? I think you might have covered this before. I'm not sure if anything else you'd like to touch on for that one, James.
Well, I would say both, and I wouldn't make it a choice between the two. I would give it a frame of honey, say, and feed it as well. Just the reason that I would give it the frame of honey is if you do end up having some weather like we're having right now of extended days of cool and damp, that they're still going to have a resource that they can go to. You don't want to give them too much of that just because you want them to kind of work and become, and they don't have much space in a nuke. So you don't want to put too much honey in there. But I would do both a frame of honey and feed. That's me.
Awesome. We also have quite a few of the submitted questions. Maybe we can
Okay. Let me see on this page. So the third question down, that's just a robbing situation. The hive got robbed out. And that's, or at least that's what it sounds like to me. And to prevent that, you reduce entrance, things like that. Last one here. When do you throw away old brood comb? There's debate about that. I don't know. 5 years seems like a good number that people use. But to me, it's more of what the brood comb looks like, because you can have comb on the outside that's 5 years old, that looks beautiful, whereas the middle is awful and ready to be replaced. So it's more of not a hard and fast rule on number, but on what the brood comb looks like. All right, so let's see. Oh yeah, that first one. Is it possible to stop seeing details of archived hives? Yes, I have a request in myself to our dev to do that. So that's on our punch list of changes to make. HiveTracks groups. That one, I think that was one that Rick was referencing, and they were using it that way. And again, that functionality is there, and it can be used in a lot of different ways in sharing information with your beekeeping club or your beekeeping buddy. One person needs a pro version, and then all the other people that they don't have to have who participate don't have to have a pro version, but there needs to be one pro version. Practical day-to-day usage tips. We could spend the rest of the webinar probably talking about those. And Danny, here's a good idea. Let's have a webinar on practical day-to-day usage tips for HiveTracks. What I will say though is come up with your own routine, kind of what you want is you want the app to fit into your process. Okay. So figure out where you're going to fit the app into your beekeeping process. Is that after every hive? Is it after you finish with that yard? Is it as you go? Again, some of that depends on your bees, your beekeeping, how comfortable you are with them, how mean they are, all those sorts of things. But come up with your own process and just try it out. Don't be afraid to experiment. And you want it to fit into your flow. And so come up with a way that you can fit it in. And again, one thing that you need to do is learn how to take pictures as you're going through. I think they're super valuable, and figure out how to fit picture taking in, and then you put those pictures into the app with the additional information that's in the app. But come up with a process for that. All right. Anybody got an audio question they want to give? Come on. I can keep going through these, or you got any in the chat you want to share, Danny?
Yeah, I think we've still got a couple in the chat. If nobody wants to say them out loud, we can go through. Okay, there's one from Jim. In addition to checkerboarding and adding boxes, what else can you do to prevent swarming? Big question.
Wait, you're asking the person who just showed a video. I mean, showed images of his hive that he was trying to prevent from swarm twice. Okay. But that being said, yes, giving them space, splitting, that's really my method is splitting, is splitting the hives early before they get into swarm mode. Once they get into swarm mode, it's kind of almost impossible to keep them from doing it. Clearly, that I think we've all experienced, if you've done it long enough, that if they get in swarm mode, they're going to do it no matter what. So, yeah. All right. Do you mind? I'll do another one here. Do you monitor what's blooming in your area for timing on honey super additions, or do you watch for the brood boxes to fill up first? both and. That's usually what my answer is, all the above. So I will watch things like right now, I'm watching the tulip poplar bloom, I'm watching the black locust bloom, I'm watching the blackberry bloom, but I'm also looking in the boxes and I'm seeing white comb, that big 10-pound swarm that I caught. I barely fit it into a single brood box. I threw a honey super on top, and they're putting the most beautiful white comb in that because there's so many bees in there. They need something to do. We've got a little bit of a flow that they're able to get out. Yeah, so it's both and this is another place where the app comes into play. You want to record when those things are blooming in your area so that next year when you come back, you say, is this early or is this late or is this the same? You know, you've got a record of the phenology and when things are blooming in your area. All right. What else, Danny?
I think we have one, a request from Jim. He's gonna pop on audio for us.
Hello.
Hi, Jim.
I have a hive that was doing very well at the beginning of the season, and I'm almost certain it was one of 5 swarms from my hives that I caught. After it swarmed, I'm pretty sure I didn't get my queen back because about 2 weeks later, I had a bunch of drones and I couldn't find any new capped brood, just a
Right.
lot of drone brood.
Yeah.
I think they seem to have righted themselves. I've checked again recently, and I found evidence of queen without actually seeing her. Everything else said eggs and cap larvae present, and some really good brood frames that were normal looking.
Right.
So my question is this: 2 things. One, when you have a laying worker, will that cap brood look the same as a queen's cap brood, or does it look different some kind of way? I know they can put 2 eggs in there or more sometimes, but do they actually go out and cap it like they do the regular queen's eggs?
Right. Right. So that's question 1. What's question 2?
Yeah. And question 2 is if they seem correct and everything's good, just leave them alone, right?
Right. So your second question, yes. If they look good, if they're queen right, it's good, you know, capped brood, eggs, everything, then the answer is yes, just let them go. I mean, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Your first question, so a laying worker will look just like a queen that's just laying drones, a drone laying queen. So the eggs from a worker are unfertilized, so they're going to be drones. So you're just going to end up with sheets of drone brood when you have a laying worker. So it's
So if
definitely
I saw some cat brood at the time I saw all those drones and drone cells, that's probably just residual.
probably so. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, that was that question. Do you have
Okay,
any more
great.
information on that new troph mite that's scaring everyone so badly? And I'll leave it at that.
Oh, the tropolabs might. Yeah, I mean I mean I'm monitoring just like everybody else in terms of watching what's happening in both you know what people are seeing and as far as where it's progressing and preparing. I mean there's not much we can do to prepare for it other than understand it more, and I encourage everyone to kind of understand its behavior, you know, the kind of treatments and things, how you're going to have to manage it. I'm hesitant to use treatment, but just you're going to have to manage it some way. And it's going to be different than Varroa. And so, I mean, there's kind of an inevitability of it arriving, but it's more of a timing. How long do we have until it gets here? And yeah, that's a guess. Nobody really knows at the moment, but it's definitely something to be aware of. Now, fear mongering and all that sort of thing over it is not helpful. So don't participate in that side of it. Just inform yourself of what's going on and be aware. All right. What else?
Lynn submitted one in the chat, maybe for Sarah, or any opportunity to add RFD tags added to scan in, sorry.
So let me ask a follow-up. So an RFID to ID the hive itself, is that what what is being asked, or
Yeah, Lynn here. Yeah, that's
yeah,
what I'm being asked. Hive IQ. I say it plainly. Hive IQ with their RFD tags.
correct,
And if
right.
we could go in and just scan that rascal, it makes everything much easier.
Yeah. No, I agree. And Legacy HiveTracks had a little QR code you could scan, and it would take you to the inspection page for that hive. And all that kind of automation stuff definitely is potential in the roadmap. Our current app is designed for hobbyists in particular, for smaller scale. We do have experience in our past and have built systems for, sideliner like myself and commercial. And so those time-saving pieces we're super well aware of and would love to integrate them in at some point wherever it makes sense in our roadmap. And so again, just to tell you, they're not there now. And when we go in that direction, they will be there. And again, there's other folks that do that. Nectar is another, they're more commercial. But that hive identification and being able to scan it, I agree is a very big time saving feature that would be helpful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. What else?
Any other
We got-
questions?
We got time for a few more. Let's see. Last one's here. What can I do with old beehives? Can I use them again? Absolutely. Depends on how old. If it's still, solid wood and, not too beat up, then definitely keep using it. I mean, I've got hive parts and things that are probably 30 or 40 years old. Again, depends on where you are, how good quality they were when you were first using them, but you can keep using woodenware for a long time, in particular. What are some tricks to get established hives to go up into supers to draw comb? Okay, that's always a good question. For one, you generally don't want to put a queen excluder in front of a foundation only super. You want to give them free range until they at least start drawing comb. Back to my previous answer of to draw comb, you have to have all these kind of conditions, the right age bees, good resources, and warm enough temperatures for that to happen. And there's nothing better for that than a nectar flow. So if you can get them to draw comb during a nectar flow, that's ideal. But again, you got to get all those conditions together to get them to draw comb. And sometimes it's just not the right time of year, or they just are resistant to doing that.
Unfortunate side is like just this is Greg, real quick on that question.
Yeah.
I haven't tried it yet, but I heard a suggestion, even for a medium frame, if you drop it down into your brood box for 2 to 3 days, possibly 4, that they'll draw that out quicker in the brood chamber than they do up in the honey supers. But I haven't tried it.
Yeah, I would guess that definitely will work. The fun thing about putting a medium into a deep is they very quickly also make natural comb all the way.
Yes.
And it's almost always drone comb. So if you want to do some drone removal without using one of those green frames, drop you a shallow or a medium down in there, and you'll have this whole sheet of drone brood you can, but I'm sure that works. Yeah. That sounds like a lot of labor to me, to be pulling frames in and out of a deep. So that I'm allergic to that much labor. All right, we got time for a couple more. Come on, what y'all got? Maybe one more. Any more out there, Danny, in chat land?
I think we've got through most of them, but a good opportunity if I have missed it to please raise your hand if we haven't answered it in the chat or
And
send it again.
while you're doing that, how important is PPE when you're using treatment? Well, I would definitely follow the label and use PPE. It's there for a reason, and yeah, I speak from experience with formic acid. It's very hard on your hands if you don't have gloves. So, or it can be. So, definitely yes, it's important for your health.
Tom, thank you. I think we have missed yours. Please
Thank-
share it.
Thanks. Hey, I'm a newbie beekeeper, and I have two hives. The bees seem to be doing well. They're about from the package installation about 3 weeks.
Okay.
They're doing a great job of drawing comb, and I see lots of capped brood and eggs and larvae.
Yeah.
I also noticed in one hive a what I would call a queen cup.
Yep.
And I had some advice from somebody to tell me what to do about that, but I'm curious what your advice might be, James.
Yeah. So, especially on packages, you're monitoring them usually closer. And queen cups, I just knock them down.
Okay.
Um, That being said, packages also have a tendency to supersede sometimes pretty quickly. And so that's sort of maybe an impulse that they're getting just because packages are not firmly established colony yet. They don't have all the pieces working together. So that's sometimes a residual of that going on. So one, I wouldn't worry about it if all the other pieces are going well.
Right.
And sometimes queen cups are they just throw them up there for whatever reason, and they're not really in the swarm mode. But if I'm going through and it shouldn't be swarming, and I'll just cut them with my tool, just knock
Okay.
them down. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks.
All right, Danny, I think you need to wrap it up here.
Yeah, I think so. Mark, we have one last question from you in the chat, but maybe we can follow that up in an email since we're out of time. But super quickly, would love to share our next webinar with you. So in June, we'll be joined by a special guest, Tara Lynn Groth. She's a permaculture advocate, so all about working to the land, natural beekeeping processes, natural biodiversity practices. So we're really excited to have her here and hear how she connects beekeeping with permaculture in general. We're also going to be launching a bit of a challenge in app. Around documenting local flora and fauna. So it's a really interesting one, and we hope you can join us for that one there. You did send it via okay, well maybe if we get through the next bit super quickly, Mark, we'll be able to answer this as a final one so that you have information to take away with you. We also you'll receive an email with the recording of this as well as a special discount code to try out HiveTracks Pro, our desktop version of HiveTracks. If you haven't already done so, it's a really good opportunity to try that. You can log in via our website or via the link in the app and just use the promo code May25, which will give you 40% off. This will all be in the email as well, and you have a week to do that. But thank you so much, everybody, for joining. If we do have 2 minutes, James, to answer Mark's question,
Okay,
that would be
sure.
fantastic to wrap it up.
Yeah. What's Mark's question?
So can you use a nuke as a backup mini hive to have a queen on standby? Any management concerns? Feel free to unmute yourself, Mark, if you need to.
Yeah, the answer is absolutely. Anytime you can have an extra resource hive, do it. And they're great for a lot of reasons. It could be, if you go queenless, you've got a queen there. It's also if you've got brood that you need to boost a weak colony, or yeah, if you're in honey production or whatever, like I'm going to be with sourwood. I can pull like a brood frame from a nuke and boost the population of those production colonies, and then that nuke will just rebuild it, refill it back out. So I'm a big fan of having those when you can. So definitely it's worth doing that. The challenge is keeping it small, right? If you want to keep it, you got to pull stuff out of it if you're going to keep it at nuke size. So that would be from a management standpoint, you're gonna have to take stuff out of it to keep them small. All right. Thanks y'all for joining me and Danny and Sarah. And yeah, happy beekeeping. I'll be in Sourwood by the time we get together again. And yeah, if you want to follow us on our socials, we're posting good stuff there. And so feel free to follow us on whatever socials you're on.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
See you next month.
Bye.